Welcome to the Worldbuilders Anvil, episode 149, getting the most out of downtime. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world? Do you need more? Does it make sense? Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination. This is the place that will help prime your mind. Now, it's time to heat up the forge, break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome to the Worldbuilders Anvil. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram. Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. Welcome back. As always, I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller. Jeff, I got to tell you, today's episode has me kind of concerned about you.
Why?
Well, because I just don't like it to know that you're down, and when you're experiencing your downtime, it makes me sad too. So maybe we could talk about it if something's bothering you.
Well, the good news is that's the whole point of the episode is to talk about it. The bad news is you're being a Michael and you're taking it incorrectly.
What downtime? That's what we're talking about, right? Like when you're down.
No, time when you're
time
relaxing.
You spend when you're downtime.
Downtime.
Oh, well, why didn't you say so?
Because I thought if I said that way, you'd think I'd said Downton Abbey.
I've never seen that show. You know why? Because during my downtime, I watch other things.
It's actually not my kind of show at all, but my wife started watching it, and I have to say the production quality and the acting.
I've heard nothing but good things. I've got nothing against it. It's just not a show I've given a try to.
Yeah.
Too busy watching the myriad of comic book shows that I'm still trying to catch up on.
Oh my goodness, there's so many good comic book shows right now.
So many. The DCU, well, actually, the Marvel Netflix universe and the CW DCU right now is amazing.
And I'm gonna take a second here of downtime in this episode to chastise DC a bit. For the first comic book universe out there, they sure don't understand what the term means in the context of their video mediums outside of what they're doing on CW. It's all disconnected.
Yeah.
Marvel does a great job of making it feel like a cohesive universe.
Well, they're starting to get it with the problem is not that it's all disconnected. The problem is that the film is one world, one universe, and their TV series are another. But I think that's just comes down to the basic who bought the rights for what. Same reason we didn't have Spider-Man and Marvel for a long time there.
Yeah, that could be part of it. But the thing is, it's choosing who should be where and then having those connections of littleness that kind of keep moving you from one to the other one. And actually, I just saw Doctor Strange.
Oh, I didn't watch it yet.
So let me ruin it for you here.
Go ahead.
No, but essentially,
I don't think that you could.
I don't typically watch movies in 3D or IMAX.
Okay, but you did for this one.
I did for this one, and
with good reason,
and you can tell from the previews that it's somewhat trippy at times, and as in you feel like you're on an acid trip, and in IMAX, it really delivered it. So I would highly suggest that movie, even if you're not a fan of Doctor Strange, which I am.
Here's my concern based on all the trailers. Does it do a lot? Because the trailer really emphasizes this. Does it do a lot of like ripping off Inception? Because it really looks like it's on Inception on crack.
I've never seen Inception, so I don't know.
Well, all the things that they did with the buildings bending over each other and whatever, that's literally straight out of Inception. So I watched that and I was like, what the heck is this? Like, it's Marvel. It's
there are a couple of scenes with that. That kind of effect is used in a couple different ways. In the story, it makes perfect sense of how and why things are happening the way they are. And so I not seen Inception, I can't say that, but it's definitely a Doctor Strange story. And
are you a fan of the comic? Like, did you read any of the comic?
It was okay. I was more of a Defenders kind of guy, but I like Doctor Strange just because he was a sorcerer. But, typically most of my sorcery comes from fantasy, not from comics. So
yeah, I never really read Doctor Strange as a kid. It was always more like X-Men.
I kind of knew this story. I don't know a lot of his other stories. This is sort of a classic story of his, and that part was kind of neat. So, and of course, a couple good trailers at the end of upcoming stuff too.
Ooh, good stuff. All right, so downtime. How do we want to?
Okay. So let's start off and talk a few minutes about why downtime is important. And the thing is, if you're creative, even for a living, if you found a way to do it, or you're trying to get there, so you have to sort of double hustle like I do and sit there and spend some time doing other things plus work a full-time job, or if you just work a full-time job, downtime is massively important for productivity in life in general. Because the thing is, the longer you stay on task, the worse you get at it. There are a lot of,
I'm sorry.
The more you stay on task,
the longer you stay on task, the worse you get at it.
The less productive you become. So
that's interesting.
They say on average, most people, and I think this is done for people who do desk jobs, and it might be slightly different for people who work out in more labor intensive jobs. But they say typically you have 2 hours of which most of your productivity is derived in a day. And the longer you work, in a day, the less productive you become, which really kind of sucks. Like in my kind of industry,
you work 10 hours a day generally.
Yeah.
So does that mean you only get about 45 minutes worth of real work done every day?
To 2 hours, somewhere in there. But I get paid for 10. No, you still get work done, but
Jeff, we're recording this, Jeff.
You still get work done, but it's at a much slower rate. Sort of your peak productivity is within a couple hour window. So the more work you can actually push through, the more productively you can accomplish that work in that time, the more work you'll get done. There was a company, and I don't remember the name. It was a surfboard company, people who made stuff for people who live on the beach, who go surfing and have that kind of lifestyle. This guy launched this very huge company that did that kind of work. And after a couple of years, he actually sent a memo out to his company that said, listen, everyone who works here, we're a beach company and we're losing track of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So figure out how to get your work done in 8 hours a day or tender your resignation. And they found that they've cut people's time from 8 to 4 hours, and they're still getting all the work they need done. Because that's really ultimately what's important.
They said find a way to get everything you need to get done
in 4 hours.
8. Oh, you said 8.
From 8 to 4.
So they literally cut their time in half. They said, get your work done in this time now.
Yep.
And is everybody, are they paying them hourly?
Yeah, no. They're deriving the same payment they were. They're getting the work done they need, because for a business, I need an X amount of work from you to be completed for me to make X amount of money. So if you can do that in half the time because you want to be on the beach surfing, that's the kind of worker they were looking for.
Okay. And
so people who could figure out how to be more productive and could figure out how and when to do email versus how and when to do your core work. Like the mistake we normally make as people is we sit there and the first thing we do, if you have a desk job, you get to work and you open up your email and spend an hour going through your email. Mm-hmm. For most people, that's a mistake, because most people are more productive as they're getting started into the day. So if they spend that time going through email, when they get to doing the spreadsheets or the computer programming or whatever type of work they're trying to do, they're actually doing it slower than the emails, which is counterintuitive. You should do it the other way around.
Well, the thing about the thing that kind of goes against the grain on that one, though, is at least for my industry.
Yep.
I have to check now. Granted, in my industry, I am at my company. I am the type of employee that I don't need to do a lot of email work. Like I do very little email work.
Yep.
So, but I do have to check my email because whatever's in my email may affect what I have to do that day. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of people that I work with that is how it works. Like you have to check. You're waiting on answers from the prior day about given work that you're trying to accomplish. Most without definitely. Those answers, you can't. So while what you're saying makes sense, it may not be possible.
Not true, because this is what you do, and this is the mistake, right? You go through every email.
Right.
So like if I'm expecting emails from my boss or from certain people on projects I'm working on, I look for those emails. If they're there, I deal with those immediately. And then If I don't need to deal with them immediately, I set them aside. If I do need to deal with them immediately, I do. And if they're not those emails, I don't even look at them. I wait to the end of the day and I do my emails then. So 90% of my email work happens at the end of the day. 1 to 5% of it needs a response in the morning because it's a hot topic thing. Or sometimes I have systems that are deployed that might be having issues. So if something comes up, I have to at least look at it. But if it's not relevant to that moment, it gets put aside. I deal with it at the end of the day because I want to spend my peak time designing and producing the software, not going through email.
Not putzing with correspondence.
Yeah. And the same thing comes when I do this. When I'm at my most productive time to do this type of work, I'm doing this kind of work. Like writing, I can do later in the day because, like I said, it helps me be a bit more creative when I'm not exhausted, but I'm a little tired. So I could punch out a lot more words at that point than I could earlier on in the day. And really for me, it takes about a couple hours. So it's usually like, for me, it's like about 9 to 11 is probably my peak time.
Yeah. I find that for me, like at the end of my day, I feel like we're segueing into like how we write, but at the end of my day, I have to unwind first. Like I'd love to get right into the writing, but I need to decompress, get part of my day gone.
And that's where downtime comes in. And if you listen to our last episode, that's the way I do it. I jam out on my way home. It frees up my mind from work, which is a tough thing to learn. When I was younger, I could not do that. I had to learn that over time. I had to learn how to let
relax.
Work go because to me, bringing it home isn't fair. And I never wanted to do that. I was forced to because it's, at least for me, it was a very tough thing to learn. But music I used to do that, and I do that because I have a commute, so I can do that at that point. Sometimes I'll eat dinner right away when I get home, and my wife and I will talk a little bit, and then I'll get to writing.
Yeah, that can be one of the tough things for me, dealing with the food, fitting food in there.
Yeah. So I usually eat more when I get home because my wife's usually home when I get home, or she has a night class that evening, and then I'll try and go straight into writing if she's not there, or if she's there, then I'll go into writing and then move, or I'll go into eating and then go to writing. But I want to be done with writing by 9 o'clock because at that point I start losing too much of my mind, and then I'm done. But that's and that's involved in it because where it comes down to is, I like to maximize my time because I'm so busy. So a lot of the times, the things I choose
define that. When you say maximize your time, do you mean fill your time? Downtime,
yeah. Oh, I fill all my time. I schedule 24/7. My entire week is scheduled, and I have to play with it a lot of times. But it helps me understand how much time I have to do certain tasks, and I move it around. But that's a slightly different episode than this. I don't want to get too much into that, but I block my time out based off of the goals I'm working towards. And that includes downtime because you have to have downtime. You have to relax the mind, the body, your emotions. So much stuff comes up. You have to be able to decompress, even when, especially when you're busy.
Are you all right?
my mouth was relaxing.
Is that what it was? Your mouth was catching up with downtime.
That's right. So
your mouth's like, I need downtime right now. It's a little downtime.
So for me, a lot of the things I like to do, downtime, are things that can inspire me either indirectly or directly. They can teach me stuff that isn't related to what I do, but I love learning. So I like to do that. There are certain types of video games I play because they sort of play into the types of things I like to write about. Sometimes, I like to watch really well produced stuff or fun stuff, stuff to make you laugh. Laughing is so important. Laughing relieves, all the grief, all of the pain of the week. And if you can laugh really well, that really goes a long way to freeing up more time.
See, for me, I find I'm fortunate in that while I need to decompress at the end of my workday, I have a job that work does not come home with me.
Yeah.
Like my mood does, so I got to deal with my mood and deal with how I feel and whatever. And I could probably be better about, putting myself, like getting some decompression done while I'm still driving, which I don't tend to do. Like I tend to do that like when I get home. Like I just want to I end up driving real fast, just get home, get myself home, then start working on whatever I'm going to do to decompress. And usually that includes blowing things up in a video game. For me, I want to go hot. Like I play Destiny a lot, so for me, I want to hop on, play a little Destiny, get a few matches in, and then tackle whatever tasks I need to do.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, getting into because all this is leading into NaNoWriMo, of course. The first night, I was a little anxious about what I was going to write, how I was going to write. And because I had a couple of hang-ups with having failed the NaNoWriMo the first time I tried it. So I still had all that material. I probably had 2-3 chapters. So I was like, okay, how do I start since I'm writing the same story? And I didn't want to get myself mired in that and trying to make that work into the new stuff and whatever. So I started to get myself anxious. I was like, you know what? I need to have a few drinks. So that's what I did. I drank. I Hemingwayed my way into the intro, and I got a nice little buzz on. To totally relax me, which was great. And it started like getting my mind thinking more creatively with an old story, and it loosened me up enough that let my anxiety go, and I was able to get writing the way I wanted to, which was forget all the old stuff. You don't even have to write an intro. Just vomit it out. And I just started writing at chapter 2 instead of chapter 1. I didn't do any character introduction. I just started writing what needed to be written for chapter 2. And now I'm rocking through chapter 3.
Awesome. So. Yeah, no, that's good. That's definitely the way I for full disclosure, will not go over every technique. I like to relax. But a few drinks do it for some people. I'm lucky in a way where I don't.
I'm kind of curious to know what you might be alluding to. As far as I know, I've never known you to be one to use extracurricular substances. So
no.
Yeah, so that makes me wonder what you might be. I like to strangle the cats in the neighborhood. Just kill one of the neighbor's pets, and after that, all my anxiety is gone. You'll notice that we don't have any, we don't have a wild dog problem like we used to.
All those bunnies have disappeared from your yard.
Yeah, remember the coyote packs that were roaming every now and then? They would attack one of the neighbors. They're gone now. I wouldn't know why, but I'm a stress-free man. No, but for me, downtime has multiple meanings. Downtime is very flat out. It is the time that I can use in any way I want. So it mostly means I'm not at work and I don't have an obligation to be anywhere particular or do anything specific. So for me, that's okay. Well, what am I going to do? Am I going to watch a movie with my wife, which my wife and I love watching movies? Are we like tonight, or we're going to go see a comedy show tonight? So we're both excited about that.
You going to laugh?
Yeah, going to get some of that laughing in that you were talking about. So important. But most of the time that I don't have the opportunity to do things like that. So my downtime is I've gotten out of work. I'm home for the day. How am I going to relax for the rest of the night? And it's usually turn on Destiny, blow some stuff up in my video game because that is very cathartic for me. And it's also social. Like I've got a lot of friends that I play with on here, so I love doing that. My wife actually asked me this morning when I was going to start working out again. So that is something that I have to add into my downtime because I have not been working out in a while. And I've got a phone call out to a guy selling some exercise bikes because, as you know, Sarah and I have bikes and we go biking, but, with the bad weather coming, we're not going to be able to for a few months. So
Whiner.
Thinking about getting some professional spin bikes.
Freaking whiner. Okay, just take the bike out year round. Stop the whining.
Yeah, snow, ice.
Yeah, but once again, that actually brings up to a really good point: is moving it as part of it. You like to move it, and you have to.
Yes, I do enjoy moving.
But that's part of it, because part of it is part of it is your body. Your body's relaxed. And for me, downtime isn't just away from work. It's during work. It's my break time. It is that commute home. It's lunch. If I'm being smart and not eating, Michael Hyatt is one of the people I look up to in sort of the online internet community. He takes a nap every day at lunchtime.
I can't do that.
He doesn't always sleep. He lays down for 30 minutes. If he naps, he naps. If he wakes up, he wakes up for just 30 minutes every day as part of his lunch routine. And the thing is, for him, he works from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. during the week. And but he has time planned within there to have some downtime during the day, which is easier if you own your own business. For like Michael and I at our day jobs, if I took a 30-minute nap during work, or if he took a 30-minute nap during work, we'd be fired.
No. I mean, I could do it. It's just I've never been much of a napper. Like my wife, almost like clockwork, every week on Sunday, she takes a nap. We get back from church, watch a little TV. She takes a power nap in the afternoon.
Are you a sleeper? Or can you just not unwind?
I'm not a good sleeper. You'd think that I should be able to nap because I've suffered insomnia for most of my life. So you'd think that naps would be something that would be helpful to me, but I find that if I lay down for a nap, unless I'm like really, really messed up, exhausted, like I haven't slept in 24 hours, if I just, it's just your average day and I'm a little tired, if I can even manage to lay down and fall asleep for a nap, unless I sleep more than like 2 hours, I wake up groggy and irritable and not feel like I feel worse.
Oh, okay.
So for me, like I don't even bother. I very rarely try to nap.
That's outrageous. I'm an awesome napper. I was a soldier, so it would drive my wife crazy. She'd drive us to Target, which for people who don't know is about 5 minutes down the road from us. I can nap in that span of time. And when I get into a car and I'm not driving, it's the military mind kicks in. It's like, oh, this is a chance.
Yeah, this is a chance. Yeah.
And my head went down on all that.
When I worked in New York, I was like that. Like I
almost on the subway or whatever.
I could sleep anywhere. Back of a truck on like a wooden floor with no blanket or nothing soft. You're just laying on a hardwood floor, fall right asleep.
Yeah. Look to your cats to figure out how to nap better. That's another lesson.
My cats are crazy. They nap everywhere.
For me, you talk about stuff you like to do with your wife. We actually play board games. Forbidden Island usually to relax. That. Yeah,
we
had a lot of fun with that one.
We played it one time and she wasn't quite into it. We're definitely going to give it more try. You know what? Our favorite one is probably Zombie Dice. Mm-hmm. Zombie Dice is really good. The cool thing about Zombie Dice is you can play it with like a 4-year-old and it's still fun. You can play Forbidden Island with a 4-year-old, but it would probably be quite deadly. Yeah, the Zombie Dice is really good. We also like what's that other one? Lost Cities. Lost Cities is a good one.
Yep. Yeah, but that's one of the things we like to do together and I always try and maximize being present in those circumstances. So we turn off the cell phone notifications and it's always important because if you're not present with them when you're supposed to be with them, they're going to expect more of you when there's other stuff to do, like kill stuff. High art. Do you have any examples of any high art you like to do?
High art?
Yeah.
Give me an example of what you mean by high art.
Artistic stuff. It could be cinema, theater.
Oh yeah.
Paintings, whatever.
The only issue with that is that those activities tend to come with ticket prices and a more expensive cost to go and do things like that. Mm-hmm. When Sarah and I first got together, one of our first dates, I took her down to New York and we went to MoMA and it was great. We had an absolute blast. And I love doing stuff like that, but we're actually going to New York soon. I'm taking her and her mom and her aunt down there for a wedding shower, baby shower. I think it's a baby shower. And I want to take them to the Museum of Natural History, which is one of my all-time favorite museums. If you ever find yourself in New York, if you can get to the Museum of Natural History, it's really a treat to go there. It's a real good one.
Wow. I mean, I was thinking more like Evil Dead, but I guess museums work too.
I'm a big fan of Evil Dead. You know this.
Oh, most definitely. And classic literature, I think it's important, especially if you're a storyteller, to read. And I'm not talking about newer stuff or genre stuff, but read some Mark Twain, read Dante's Inferno, read classic literature that survived the spans of time, because those guys obviously knew how to tell a story because you still read them. Or people still read them. So maybe because we're told to, I don't know.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's some stories out there that's like, oh, you should read this, that really isn't great, but it was first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my theory is I'll start reading any classic literature, and if it bores me, I close it and I find another thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for that when you're comparing an old thing to a new thing. When you're talking about either old music, old literature, old art, like some of it, it's like it's classic and it's amazing because it thought to do a given thing a given way first. It doesn't necessarily it did it best and it hasn't been improved upon since, but because it did it first, it's classic and noteworthy and it has a place in history. But there's a lot of times where there's stuff like that where we're like, oh, this is so great. And I'm specifically referring to some of these older books that we're not quite mentioning, but all thinking about, where it's like, oh, you have to read this book in high school. It's a really great book. And you read it and you're like, it's not. It's
usually the ones that make you read in high school aren't the classics. They're the ones that you're supposed to think are. But, and some of them too, it's like you could argue Mark Twain sort of originated science fiction. And I've heard this argument. Maybe it's because I live in Hartford and there's some people biased to Mark Twain out here. But
for those of you that don't know, Mark Twain lived in Hartford, Connecticut, which is very close to where both Jeff and I live.
A great, actually, a good museum to go to as well too. But one of the things is the Connecticut Yankee King Arthur's Court. Time travel, so it's like you go back in time, and it's interesting, but it's an okay story, but I mean, Huck Finn's a better book. So, there you go. Now beyond that, there's, I watch all kinds of TV like Michael, pretty much any WB or Netflix, serial on comic books. I typically like series better than movies. But I will watch some movies too. But for me, and we've talked about this a little bit in the show before, Great Courses. It's a wonderful app that I have on my Fire Stick, and I can watch like not documentaries, but actual like lectures about cooking, math, physics. I typically do the history stuff or the great history stuff, but that's me in general, because that's me looking for inspiration for things to grab to use as a building block later on in world building. So for me, it's duplication of effort. I can relax and unwind and get inspired at the same time. So for me, Great Courses is a wonderful outlet to improve myself. And you can also buy them on Amazon too, but it's a lot more cost effective to get the app and pay $5 a month than pay up to $120 for some of these courses if you buy just the course standalone through Amazon. So, video games. There are a few different types that I have to highly recommend. 3X games. I believe it's Explore, Exploit, and Expand. They're the kind of games where like you start with a city and then you grow more cities and conquer the world kind of games, or the universe if they're set in space. Those kind of games I find very good because it gives you sort of an idea of overview strategy, which might benefit you later on when you're writing stories that involve big motions of strategy. And along with that,
I was just going to say that games like that I find have helped me understand the concept of resource management.
Yes, that's the major thing with those games is why it's important to have iron. Yay! Well, I'm doing great in Civ, and then we get to the Iron Age, and I don't have any iron resources.
Okay, Jeff, you know that what I'm talking about is what's the word I'm looking for? Not a metaphor. You're using something in the video game to parallel a real life skill. I'm not talking about, managing actual iron ore. Though if that's your
games.
job, yeah, it can be important in those games. I'm talking about the fact that I've had to manage iron ore in a video game has taught me the concept of knowing what you have as resources, whether it be for a creative endeavor or even something as simple as what's in the house to eat, what meals can I make with what's left in the kitchen. Just the concept of being aware of what you have at your disposal and how you can best take advantage of all of that.
Blah. Okay.
Yes, video games taught me that.
Okay, now I'm going back to video games. That's much more interesting than washing my counter. Let's see, strategy games, high strategy games, Total War Rome 2, Civilization, Crusader Kings 2, all of the different ways of dealing with nation states and how they operate within a context. And you actually get a lot into politics too, into like Rome Total War. There's typically factions within your country. If you play like Rome, there are two other great families. And you're not only trying to expand and grow the empire, but you have to worry about either maintaining balance or trying to supplant those other families. So you can learn a lot of useful skills to know as a game master there as well too, where you get into this idea of more how politics used to work. It's not what you think of today as politics. A dagger or a poisoned apple might not be unheard of. So we think politics are nasty today, but they're a lot gentler than they used to be.
I feel like we've gotten really far off of downtime.
No, I'm just talking about how I maximize it. So when I'm playing games, this is what I get out of games.
Well, all right. Well, let's focus on that concept a little more laser-like. What would be something that you could do as a skill to help maximize your downtime when it comes to your different creative endeavors?
See, I think about the other way. I look for other creative things or things to either do or not to do that will build upon skills I have. And so that's kind of the point I'm getting to, where when I get into great courses, I'm looking to try and build up my knowledge base so I can utilize it later on in writing. When I'm playing strategy games or RPGs, I'm looking at world building and storytelling elements. I'm looking at how the mechanics of the political system work or the diplomatic system in the game to try and expand my knowledge of how to better utilize those when I'm storytelling. So I'm looking for downtime things. Like there are other kinds of games you can choose. Some are like shooters are completely worthless, but some people play those, and I can play those too, but they're worthless. So no one would. If you want to maximize your downtime.
You remember before when I was talking about what I like to do to unwind at downtime, I usually get on and I play a game called Destiny, which is a shooter.
Oh, I didn't know. I apologize.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I didn't mean that.
Yes, you did. And despite the trap you're trying to push me into, I am not going to be offended by your idiotic opinion of something that I play. It's not going to bother me that you're trying to insult me by insulting a game I play. That's just, that's a dumb idea if you think I'm going to fall for that.
I can see your eyes. I know the truth. Okay.
Well, to be honest, I will say this. I don't believe that shooters do have a whole lot to offer. I love them. I love playing them.
Well, I think you actually nailed it when you talked about it earlier.
Well, the social aspect of it, but only if you take advantage of that. If you don't, then you're just running around a digital plane shooting things.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I think you nailed it earlier. For you, it brings you to catharsis. It's a form of meditation.
Yes.
And
except when I will say this, you also have to understand yourself and your engagement with your thing. Like in this case with the video game, there are times where I hate playing it because there's a given task I'm trying to do or a given quest I'm committed to completing, and it's really frustrating to do it. And I'll be swearing up a storm and screaming at my TV and irritated as all get out. And my wife's like, why are you playing this game? Look at how upset it makes you. I'm like, you don't understand. It's just because I'm trying to complete something. That's the only time that I'm super irritated. Mm-hmm. Or if I'm losing, I get irritated when I'm losing too.
Well, that's sort of a bigger problem in some of the games I play, because you can watch yourself lose in a slow train wreck playing a strategy game. Like you just feel it coming and you're like, okay, I'm starting to collapse here. Oh wait, I'm going to lose this game.
It's hard to really watch your demise in real time and know that it's your fault the whole way. Like you're watching, you're going, I shouldn't have done that. That was a bad
who was the idiot that started this war with all of those other countries?
Yeah, and you just know you're messing it all up. It's like, ugh.
Okay, I just got invaded by a producer here. Okay.
Kitty producer.
And now movies or whatever, and sometimes these are just for catharsis. They're just to weed the world out of my head, or other times I might drive a specific skill from them. I usually try and do stuff more that I derive additional skill from. But sometimes if I have trouble getting to a part where I can get past the work of the week, or I can get past of it, you have to sometimes do something for a period of time to wash it away. And if your thing's movies or shooters or whatever it is, do it. And the other one I like to hit up real quick is magazines. There's a lot of great magazines out there that you can get direct entertainment from. And, I'm thinking your National Geographic, say it came off a history one. There's an archaeology magazine, all kinds of great magazines that you can really learn from and derive entertainment from. So, and then of course, our whole last episode, music. I mean,
definitely. I find that I actually spend a lot of downtime listening to podcasts. I listen to a lot of shows, but most of them actually, maybe not downtime, because a lot of times I'm listening to them at work.
Yeah. That's actually why I listen to a lot of podcasts or at work. I like to have them on, playing in the background, as long as I can stay focused. Sometimes if they're too interesting, I have to hold off and listen to an episode later.
Yep. I do the same thing. Like, for instance, it's very hard for me to listen to our show at work.
It's too exciting.
It's too interesting.
Too action-packed.
So exciting. Yeah, it's a lot going on.
Yes.
Gets me thinking.
Especially with 3X games.
I think we're bringing this in for a landing, and I think the big thing is that we got to stress, one, you need downtime. Mm-hmm. Not you like it, and okay, you guys should consider putting some downtime into your schedule. Like, you really need it. You need it as a human being to relax, to unwind, to really give yourself a way to prioritize what's really important. Because if you get too mired in any given thing, whether it be work or some other thing that you're dealing with in your life, if you don't get a sense of perspective, i.e. downtime and time just to do things other than that given task, you get so hyper-focused on it that you have no basis of comparison, and it becomes your world. Like, downtime helps you reset your mind to handle all the tasks in your life that are important, and sometimes they're not that important, but you have to deal with them anyway. But it gives you perspective.
So now for the Worldbuilder task of the day, take sort of a quick inventory, and I'm not saying write it down and overthink it, but look at the things that you do for fun and say, which of these things strengthen me as a creative person? Which of these things take away? And if I'm a painter, I need other sorts of creative outlets besides painting. So what are other things that I can do physically, mentally, and emotionally to keep myself available? So when I'm trying to get the stuff that I love done, I'm doing it. And I'm not held back by all of these other problems in life. So look at the things that you do that work for you. If there's anything really cool, hit us up on Twitter and let us know, or go join our Facebook group, the Fantasy Writers Undercroft. Hit me up in Twitter at Jeffrey W. Ingram. That's actually it, at Jeffrey W. Ingram. The link will be in the show notes. Just get in contact with me somehow, or go there and search for it. It's a closed group. You can interact with it, and it doesn't show up in everyone's feed. It just stays internal to the group. So, let us know what's going on. This is still sort of near the end of NaNoWriMo. There's probably about a week left at this point. You got one more weekend left, I believe, or my timing's way off, and this is going to sound like a really silly point. So, but I think this is going to come out the 21st, but most of it's over. So you're still mainly focused on writing, but don't forget that, especially if you're starting to burn out a little bit, use your downtime wisely, and let it build back up to you so you can get more productive word counts in for your remaining days.
And, if you don't think you're doing a good job, we're here to tell you You're doing a great job.
Yes. And you know what? If you end up 2,000 words short, you have another day. You don't get it for NaNoWriMo, but you still get it done. And you have a real world task for us today, Michael?
Real world task for the day. I would say start doing your holiday shopping budget planning. My wife and I actually started this months ago. But if you haven't started, considered, we're right around the corner from the holidays. So you need to make sure to budget accordingly so that you can make sure that you can show all your family that you love them monetarily.
And me.
Oh, well, I mean, I think, us goes without saying, right?
Oh, you too? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd like to be included.
Okay, yeah.
And shower us with love, monetary love.
All right. Enjoy the end of NaNoWriMo. Let us know how you're doing. Check us out on Facebook in our Facebook group or on the page. We love talking to you. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil. We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends, and so would they. If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting by showing them Stitcher or iTunes, or, best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com. That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the mithril's hot.